Okay, ladies and gents, to stop me from having to re-explain this to everyone in the room, you can go back through this YouTube video to check how to do the stuff that I've done during the demo. I'm gonna go through changing the color of your scans and using something called Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop on how to do that. Simply to start with, get your picture from your email or from wherever you've got it stored. It can be your computer, and get it downloaded. I'm going to use this picture that this student has made, and it will go into your downloads folder, which is stored down here. Once you are into your downloads folder, what you need to do is drag it into Photoshop. So open Photoshop. When you search for Photoshop in the search bar in the bottom left corner, just click on whichever version of Photoshop comes up and sign in with it. Once you've logged in through Google and all of that is done, find the picture that you want to use. I'm purposely picking this one because it's upside down, and drag it into Photoshop, and it will automatically open it like this. If you want to open more ones later on, you can grab them and pull them up here to the top where there's this thin grey line, and then it'll open it into a different panel. So first thing you should do when you put a picture into Photoshop is scroll over to here and unlock the canvas first, please. Next thing you might say is my picture's the wrong way around, or I need to move it. To move any kind of image in Photoshop, you go to the top left corner up here, click the move button, and then you make sure that this is ticked up here. Once you've done that, you have the option to turn your work. You also have the option to shrink your work however you like. So I'm just going to, for the sake of doing it, I'm going to shrink mine, and then I'm going to make sure your cursor turns to this one that's curved, and then spin it around. Press the tick. Once you've got it here, you might find that actually you want to cut the background out. You do not have to cut the background out of your pictures. I'm going to do one with a cut background and one without a cut background. So to show you how to cut your background out, what you need to do is use one of two tools here. So if you hover over this bit, you have a menu. If you've got a really clear picture, you can use the object selection tool. When you've clicked that, all you need to do is drag a box over the area that you want to select, and you pray to God that Photoshop doesn't blow up. There you go, it didn't blow up. And you can probably just about see now there's this sort of dotted line that's running all the way around the edge of my work. If I press delete now, however, it's going to delete the car, so I need to select the opposite. So if you go to the top of your page, select an inverse, I've now selected everything else, and I can press the backspace button on my keyboard, and then I'm going to right click and deselect afterwards to get rid of those dotted lines. Now when I move it around, I just have a car. Like I said, you don't have to do that. Okay, you can have a copy that looks like this. It's up to you, but sometimes when you're editing the background, you'll get all these dirty paper marks in that you won't want to have. So my suggestion is you cut it out of the background. So once you've got your car or whatever print I guess you've done, what I need you to do then is decide what colors you're going to do. If you want to play it nice and simple, you can just change the color of the car really simply, or you can do something that's a bit more complicated, but I think looks a little bit better. To change the color of your car really simply, what you need to do is click over here on the layer that you want, and then you need to scroll up, and you should have a tab here that says adjustments. You're looking for the one that is hue and saturation, so this button here. If you haven't got it there, you can simply go over to the image button, adjustments, and hue and saturation will be highlighted there for you. So do it either way, it doesn't really matter. Once you've got it open, it'll either open a menu, or you'll have to click the little button here. Once you've clicked this button, you get all of these options at the top here. Now, if I change the color here, it affects the color of pretty much everything on the car apart from black. If I want to make the car brighter, I can drag it up. If I want to make it black and white, I can pull it down. If I want to make the whole thing really white or really black, I can do that as well. So here I've got the option to change the colors. I'm just going to show you what this looks like with one with paper in the background. You can kind of see it's not really affecting the paper too much, but it can do. So again, I would suggest you cut the background out. What you need to do then is basically get a bunch of different versions of this car for you to use in your work. So if I just want to play this simple and say I've got a red car already and I want to print out a blue version, I'm just going to change it to where it's blue, and then I'm going to make a copy of this. I'm going to go to File, Save a Copy, and then choose a folder here that's actually useful. Use your picture folder. You should use that. I'm using my downloads because I'm on a computer at home. And name it Blue Car. Save. Always turn your quality all the way up and press OK. And then I can change it so that I've got a green car. Save a copy. Change it to green. It's not how you spell green. And then make sure it's this option as well. Make sure it's JPEG, ideally. You can either use JPEG or you can use this one, PNG. PNG will remove any white backgrounds. A JPEG will give you a white background. That's the simplest form of edit that you can do. You can also, if you want to be a little bit snazzy about it, if you click on this white box here, I can then move my mouse over to the left-hand side of the screen and find this paintbrush tool. Not this one, this paintbrush tool. When you click on it, you're going to get a little mouse cursor that appears on your screen. If you right-click, you can change the size and you can change the hardness of the paintbrush. You can also affect it up here, so size and hardness. What will happen if I'm clicked on this white box here and my color over here is black? When I paint through it, it's going to reveal the old color. So I could take sections of this car here and I can paint over them to make some bits of it red. And I can go back up to the size tool, make it smaller, and I can make this part red now as well. So I can basically have a sort of multicolored, multi-sectioned print on one document. So you can play with that however you want. You can also do it so that you undo your mistakes. So if you go over here and click the arrow, you'll see it switches between black and white. If you've got it on white, you can paint back over everything. You can make it pretty abstract as well if you want. I could just do like a really big sort of spiral through the work or like a line through the work just to do some interesting pattern work, so on and so forth. And then I can save that as well. Same way, I can go File, Save a Copy, and I can put green and red. How revolutionary. Perfect. So that's the simple way of changing the colors of your car. And then you can print all of those out and you can collage them physically if you want to as well, or you can put them on your slideshow. Now, I'm going to delete this thing here because I want to show you the complicated version. The complicated version belongs down here at the bottom of the page. If you click here and you put gradient map, you get a greater control over the color of what you're editing. When the gradient map appears, you should get this box here. Tell me if you can't see that in lesson and I'll give you a hand. If I click on this box, I get this menu appearing. And basically it affects the light and dark levels of your car. So the right side is everything that's light and the left side is everything that is dark. If I click on this tiny little box down here a couple of times, it will let me choose what color I want everything that was once upon a time black to turn into. So I might turn all my black stuff into yellow. I suggest you don't. I'm going to, for the sake of this, just make it like a dark orange color. So all the black bits are now dark orange. And then I can click over here for the lighter color. And I could make them kind of, let's go with like a yellowy color. So now I've adjusted the black and the light levels, which I couldn't do before. You also have a bunch of presets in here. If you go through these, they will also affect your car or print, whatever you're doing, in different ways. You can play with those as well and export those. I'm gonna just go with a random preset. Let's go with that one. Actually, it's kind of ugly. That's all right. And I can press OK. I've got the same option here again, where I've got this white box, and if I'm on the paintbrush tool over here, and I've got black selected, I can paint through the middle of my design, and it will leave me with sections that are changed. If I switch it back to white, I can paint back again and be left with that. So I can, if I really want to, go into this and I could make the whole side panel of this car red, and I could leave the rest of it blue. So you've got the option here to mess around quite a lot in your work. If I just show you what one of the paper looks like at this point, if you add a gradient map and you haven't cut out your background, so we'll go back down here, gradient map, it's going to affect the color of my background, which can look quite cool, because when you are painting on top of it, once you're on this white panel again, it will affect the background as well. You can do, oh, that's a bit too large. You can do all sorts of manners of patterns and designs through it. If you want to just have a play with it and do that, it's fine. But you might not want that background in there. If you want a solid background behind your car, what you need to do is bring your mouse down, press the new page button here, and now I've got a layer. I'm going to double click on it, and I'm going to call it background, and then I'm just going to pull it down here so it's underneath the layer. Then go over to the paint bucket tool. It might be that one, but you probably want the paint bucket tool. And then whatever color you've got selected, let's go for bright pink. I just need to make sure I'm on this layer and click, and now I've got a bright pink color background. If I do the gradient map, obviously it's going to affect it. So my pink background has now gone whatever color is up here. I can stop that from happening if I right click on this and press create clipping mask. That is now only affecting the layer below it. I'm going to change the colors in this because it's a little bit aggressive. I'm going to go with that. Press OK, and now I can export that as a picture as well. File, save a copy. Let's call it Blackpink. Press save. Okay, so now I've just made an extra 4 copies of that print that took you 3 weeks to make. You also have the opportunity, when you've got your work in Photoshop, to make any adjustments. If you're not happy with the way some bits of it look, you can, using the paintbrush tool, edit those if you really want to. I truly do not think the majority of you are going to need to do this. This print is pretty good. I don't think it really needs any editing. Even the small stuff down here, like these little black dots, I would be tempted to not affect them, but for the sake of showing everybody, I'm going to anyway. Click on the paintbrush tool. If you want to make sure you've got the exact right color, you need to hold the Alt button. It's on your keyboard next to the spacebar. Hold the Alt button and then click wherever you want, and it'll change your cursor to that color. So currently I've got a black one. Now I've got a red one. And I can actually paint over some of the mistakes. I can also do it here. I could paint over a little bit of the black there. You'll find though, if you do large areas like this windscreen, it's really going to stand out in kind of an ugly way. So don't overdo it. Just do it for some small bits and pieces. That's a good way on how to affect your colors of your work. Get them saved and completed, and then you can stick them on your slideshow. So if I go back to here, I've got this untitled slideshow, and all I need to do is insert image, and I can upload it from my computer, or I can just open this thing and I can drag these in, and now I have the opportunity to mess around with them, play around with the layering, so on. and so forth, what's going to go where.